I'm Gabriel Ritchie,
I'm Jeremiah McConan.
and welcome back to the Richi Meko Connection, episode 92. Not only episode 92, but the season 5 finale, our longest season yet. Jay, when did season 5 start? Probably like
The
the
start of
beginning of the
basketball?
NBA season, right? Or the
Yeah,
start of
I would,
football season,
or
even. We just
maybe
kept
even
going.
football. Yeah.
And we're not doing this alone. We have a very special guest. We had him at the start of the playoffs, and now he's back to look back on the playoffs, not only the playoffs, the entire NBA season. One of our favorite guests, Mr. AJ Rose. AJ, how are we?
Gentlemen, it gives me such immense joy and pleasure. It is an honor and a privilege to be on the season 5 finale of the Richie and Meko Connection. I am here to celebrate the NBA season, to celebrate the start of summer, to celebrate all of us stopping watching sports so we can go outside and play them for the next
Yes.
couple months
Yeah.
and to think about how we mark the passing of time, which really is one of the ways that sports are so memorable, is we think about them as uh, the way we mark time. So we have
Mhm.
lots of topics to get to, and we did more prep for this pod, I think, than we have for the other times I have been on this
Definitely.
esteemed podcast. And so I'm ready to jump right in and for us to take it away.
So let me lay it out real quick. As I said, we're going to talk about the finals, not only the finals, not only the playoffs, the entire NBA season, but two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. We have 10 things from this NBA season. We'll have some honorable mentions too. We have the top 10 things that we will remember from this NBA season. When we think about the 2022-2023 NBA season, what comes to mind first? We're listing them off. The first, of course, which we can get right into. These are a little bit out of order the more that you go down the list. I didn't even number them at the end. But the first has to be the Denver Nuggets winning their first NBA title ever. And Jokic just, we all knew he was great, but just continuing to be great and walking a path of destruction through the entire league. AJ, I want to start with you because you chose Denver to come out of the West. I gave you props a few weeks ago. You said, yeah, whatever. They're the one seed. Still, how many one seeds have we seen? I mean, we saw one go out in the first round this year. How many one seeds have we seen go down when they don't have one of the guys we've seen in the finals the past 10 years? LeBron, Steph, KD, Jokic handled business. AJ, how do you feel about the Nuggets? How do you feel about Jokic?
I think I'm going to applaud myself for going out on a limb and picking the number one seed in the Western Conference all year long to make the finals. No, it's not only that they won, it's that they beat KD, Booker, AD, LeBron, and Jimmy and Bam to do it. And they went 16-4 and showed the kind of toughness that every champion has to show. And frankly, could have gone better than 16-4 if it weren't for Devin Booker levitating off the ground for most of the playoffs, right?
Right.
And it is so awesome to watch a team click on that level in at the 2014 Spurs beautiful game level. And I think that's the level that Jokic, Mike Malone, and the whole team got to when you have Aaron Gordon realize his basketball destiny, when you have KCP and Bruce Brown be just picture perfect role players. And when you watch them beat teams that pose different challenges to them, AD and LeBron pose a different challenge than KD and Booker do. And Jimmy and Bam and the Heat pose a different challenge too. And we'll get to them. And I want to sing the Heat's praises a lot, but I find myself just very happy that the entire basketball world gave it up for not only Jokic, but for the Nuggets as a franchise. And to think of them in the place they're at and the place that they have a chance to continue to be at for the next several years. Jeremiah, what say you about Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I mean, it's pretty cool too because this has been what 6, 7 years in the making, drafting Jokic in the second round. having those guys come in and out, Monty Morris, Will Barton, Gary Harris. Like this has been a long journey for this Nuggets team. And to finally see it, pay off for them sticking together. It's also really cool too. Like for me, when if it's by, if like Durant gets eliminated or if the Celtics get eliminated, I tend to root for more like I want to see the best team with the best player win. I think that's good for sports when, that's the outcome. And they took care of business. I was just looking at this rankings real quick. Um, Career playoff leaders in PER, so just player efficiency rating. I'll start from 7. So 7 is Hakeem, 6 is Shaq, and you have 5 Anthony Davis, 4 LeBron, 3 George Mikan, 2 Michael Jordan, number 1 Nikola Jokic. It's it's crazy because like you said at the top game, we knew this guy was good, but then he just double team. He's gonna always make the right pass. You try to guard him with one guy, he's gonna cook whoever it is. I mean, Bam, who's battling, just a really good defender, trying his hardest. And I mean, Jokic is just unreal, man. So yeah, shout out to the Nuggets. They did it the right way, and it's good to see them win. It's good for sports. Gabe?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Everything
It's
AJ said.
exciting.
Oh, I might be going to the gulag. My apologies, fellas. But
I hear you.
yeah, awesome. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Jay, like I said, we've known Jokic has been good, but you want to see them win the big one.
Yeah.
And when the Celtics lost, I was obviously very bummed. But one of the bright spots when I looked for something to cheer me up was I don't have to root against this Nuggets team now.
Yeah.
Because they're so likable. They were so likable. Like you said, AJ, Aaron Gordon accepting his role, seeing all of these guys maximize their potential and winning these tough games. It almost made it more impressive than just like blowing a bunch of teams out. That all those Lakers games for the most part were close. The Heat games were close. Before
Yeah.
the finals, I said I had Denver in 5 close games. It was a little less close than I thought it would be in a few of those, but just their ability to end games was something special where Heat fans are probably and Laker fans are probably going to be having nightmares about Jamal Murray. Just as soon as you think the Heat are about to come back from the dead once again, Murray, just a record scratch. Just nope. Dagger 3, hitting ridiculous shots. Jokic hitting that shot onto AD. AD, who I think when he's healthy is the most talented defender in the league, most talented big man defender in the league. And Jokic just, there was nothing. AD did a decent job. There was nothing he could really do though. Jokic is
Yeah.
going to get his, and him getting his not only involves him putting up a bunch of crazy stats, but making his teammates better. And I think that's the best part about this, where we're really watching the guy who hates to put up big points. Like he just wants to pass the ball and make everybody else good. And that's the
Yeah.
best type of basketball to watch. And it was just great to see. It was just
Yeah.
great to see.
Jokic has been compared rightly to lots of different great players because he
Mhm.
has elements of lots of different all-time greats in his game. And the great player who I sort of think about when I think about Jokic's run in these playoffs is Tim Duncan because of how unshakably stable he kept things, no matter how hectic a situation or a game might get. There was no such thing as a big blown lead for the Nuggets or for them to let go of the rope for an extended period of time because they were never not settled. They were never knocked off their axis because Jokic can't be. And that was something that was a hallmark of Duncan's Spurs teams and allows them to execute in crunch time and go to the Murray Jokic pick and roll, which is just the two-way butter of Murray and Jokic. And these moves that they make is
Unguardable.
one of the more poetic things I've ever seen on a basketball court. And down the stretch of game 5, which I want to talk about more when we talk about the Heat, uh, Jokic and Murray were like, okay, the Heat have taken the lead. Let's run this pick and roll. Caleb Martin has switched on to Jokic. Good night. You know, it was
Yeah.
not complicated. They didn't overthink
It
things.
never freaked out once.
Never. And that is so special to watch, because when you see so many great athletes across different sports get butterflies in big moments, it happens all the time to all kinds of great athletes.
Mhm.
It doesn't happen to Jokic. And maybe that speaks to foreign players not feeling it as much as homegrown American players, because they don't grow up hearing about legacy and this
I
and
was
that.
thinking about that earlier.
But also Jokic, I think, independent of where he just is a very unflappable guy who wants to just go home and be with his horses. The clip of him
Yeah.
after they won the title, sort of half-heartedly doing the champagne and being like, when is the parade? It's Thursday. Oh my God, no, I've got to get
He
home.
really treats it like a 9 to 5. Like
Yeah.
it's not like,
And
this
that
sort of
helps.
facade with him. That's really who he is. Yeah. And it's also cool too, like, to just add on to what you guys were saying, how the other guys on Denver play a certain way, or like they play more freely because they know they're gonna get the ball because they're playing with that guy. Like you're seeing guys cut all the time, move, like just a willingness to play team basketball because they know they will be rewarded when you just play with a guy like Jokic. So yeah, man, it's awesome that they won. Good for
M-
them.
Shout
Multiple
out
of
to
them.
Uncle Jeff Green getting a ring also. Shout
Yeah,
out to
and
Jeff
Uncle
Ish
Jeff
Smith.
Green,
Green.
Ish
Ish
Smith, DeAndre
Smith,
Jordan.
some OGs got rewarded.
Ish Smith. Oh, Ish Smith is gonna kill the Celtics when he's like 55.
Yo, I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Him on the Wizards just going on 15-point scoring
Uh,
benders in the fourth
uh,
quarter. But yeah,
and a big shout out to Christian Brown doing the
Mm.
back-to-back NCAA NBA titles and being a legit rotation guy on a title team as a rookie.
yeah.
That is not a thing many rookies do. So
He took over. Was it game 4 or game 3? He just
I think it was game
completely
I
three.
think
took
game
over.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just started taking over the game, and you're like, okay. So
Yeah.
they just have it all.
And that experience is gonna I really do think that finals experience playing real minutes in the NBA finals is just so great for a rookie. Cause you
Yeah.
really don't see that often at all. Uh but yeah, AJ, I was thinking about that with Jokic earlier. Is it these guys, him in particular, where he just doesn't care at all? So there's no fear whatsoever. If they lose, they lose. I was listening to Austin Rivers on Rosillo, Jay, and he was talking about, yeah, if he's the same guy when they win, he's the same guy when they lose. And I really think that has something to do with it. He must have grown up watching the local
Yeah.
guys play, caring about the local guys and the local Europeans. Uh, but when it comes to the NBA, he just does, he, like you said, AJ, he's not on social media, he doesn't care about all that legacy stuff. But very impressive. And I was really impressed with the role guys always showing up. Aaron Gordon in game 5 did some of the most
Ooh.
athletic defensive stuff I've ever seen in an NBA game. KCP was so clutch. He hit
Yeah.
so many daggers too. He's a guy who I hope gets remembered for
The
being
guy
a clutch NBA playoff player.
when Butler hit a 3-pointer to make it a 4-point game, with about just over 4 minutes left, and KCP came back down, took a screen, and took a 3-pointer where there were 4 Heat players under the basket and no Nuggets waiting, and he hit that 3 to get it back up to 7 with like 4 minutes left. That was one of the very biggest shots of that game. Down the
Yeah.
stretch of the third quarter of game 4 against the Lakers, when Jokic was in foul trouble, he held down the fort in the stretch of that third quarter. And then perhaps most importantly, not KCP, but Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown in game 4 of the finals, when Jokic got his 5th foul, when it was sort of a moment of truth for the non-Jokic Nuggets, they and Murray, who had 12 assists and no turnovers in that game, held it down and extended the Denver lead with Jokic off the floor and basically clinched the title right then and there. And I think it's noted Celtics radio announcer God Sean Grandy said every great championship team has a moment they have to have without their best player, and that was cool to have Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, and Murray have that moment in game 4. I think that
Yeah.
part of singing the Nuggets' praises, it leads right into our number two thing, the second thing we're going to remember from the 2022-2023 NBA season, and that is the goddamn motherfucking Walking Dead zombie Miami Heat, who I sports hate and respect in equal measure. I'm shaking my head with my eyes closed right now because what can you possibly say? What do they have to prove to anybody after that?
Yeah.
Cockroaches. I said that probably 500 times during the finals. Cockroaches just kept coming back, and it's beating the Heat is so impressive after seeing the way they won the mental battle versus everybody else they played. They completely
Mm-hmm.
mentally took them out, and to see the Nuggets just hang in with them. And the only game the Heat end up winning is a game where it came down to the wire and the Heat just shot the lights out that game. And there was a few questionable calls at the end. But
Mm.
outside of that, like you said, AJ, that made the Denver win that much more impressive. Seeing the way the Heat just dismantled Milwaukee, dismantled Boston. That was pretty
Yeah.
interesting. Uh, they're never now. Nobody can ever doubt them again. I don't care if they start off next season 0-20. I'll still be scared.
Yeah. No, they always defy logic. Back to the thing real quick. I wanted to touch on when you brought up Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown. Like that's another thing too. When I think you play with a guy like Jokic, you now have this confidence where because the biggest thing with Denver, like the two main concerns about this team coming into the playoffs was will they be good enough defensively and what is it going to look like when Jokic is off the floor? But I think this team just had this confidence to them that they knew that they would be able to hold up well defensively. Mike Malone, who I have my gripes with sometimes, he did do a good job of putting guys in the right position to just hold up, to just, get enough stops in these games, late in crunch time. And then, yeah, I mean, the way that they were able to perform without Jokic, this is why you have to really, obviously, I think they're going to be the favorites next year, but even for like the next 3 or 4 years, man, this team is, I mean, Jokic is what, 28? I don't even think Murray's 28 yet. Aaron Gordon's pretty young on a good contract. You guys mentioned they have the rookie Braun. Like this team, they might have a 3 4 year elite run in them, and
We're going to see if they bring
it's
back Bruce
crazy.
Brown. According
Mm.
to Michael Malone, drunk at the parade, they are going to bring back Bruce Brown. Shout out to an
Brucey,
all-time drunk coach celebration
Mm.
championship from Mike Malone. Fantastic performance by
yeah.
Mike Malone.
I said after the game, at one point, I asked everybody, at what point did your happiness for Denver turn into fear? That, oh, wait,
Mm.
like my team has to have this in their way for the next 5 years.
I fear's the wrong word, man. I even as a diehard Celtics fan, you can't think about these things. You just have to think about greatness and celebrating greatness, and how if you're gonna beat greatness, you have to bring out greatness in
I
yourself.
celebrate greatness, man. I watched Steph Curry kill us last year and immediately came on the pod and just praised him for an hour right after. Like, but I mean, the Denver's like we said, there's not a lot of holes in this team.
I mean,
I think,
hopefully it means that we
yeah.
get, I apologize for cutting you off, Jeremiah. I think
You're
hopefully
good.
it means we get an instant classic series with the Nuggets involved in the next year, because they didn't have an instant classic series out of their
Mhm.
four, because they went 16-4. But a team, I mean, that doesn't happen very often. Almost every championship team in any sport has to go through some serious capital B battles. And I expect if they're going to make the finals again next year, that they're going to have some absolute bouts with other Western Conference teams who maybe the Grizzlies get healthy, maybe the Lakers get some more reinforcements, et cetera, down the line. The NBA talent pool is too deep.
Yeah.
The Suns with Beal and playing 4-on-5, whatever might be happening. But I do want to talk about specifically the very last game of the NBA season, because I thought that was a perfect encapsulation of the praises that we are heaping upon the Heat and the Nuggets. Because Jimmy Butler going nuclear and scoring 55 in game 4 against the Bucks and leading them to double-digit comebacks in the fourth quarters of games 4 and 5 of that series is one thing, while Giannis has a bad back, and that was incredibly impressive. And them out grinding the Knicks in a throwback late 90s series in the second round is another thing. Caleb Martin turning into Dwayne Wade in the conference finals is even another thing. But to watch the finals, and I sort of did a test of this. I went back with my buddy Jonah last night and we watched game 6, the Ray Allen shot game. We watched the fourth quarter of that Spurs Heat game, and we watched the fourth quarter of the Jordan Jazz final game 6 in 1998. We watched both those fourth quarters, and the NBA finals are not the highest quality basketball games because of the quality. They're the greatest games because of the desperation and because of how exhausted both teams are from the gauntlet they've just run over the previous 2 months of the playoffs and 8 months of the season. And whatever is left in the tank is being emptied on the court. And to watch the refs finally put away their whistles and let those dudes decide it on the court and have it essentially turn into a wrestling match. The Heat are like, Bam's giving up, 40, 50 pounds to Jokic. He
Just like clobbering him
on the rebounds. We're going absolutely apeshit on each other. Kyle Lowry's like grabbing Jokic around the waist, and
man, that last like 3-4 minutes of game 5 was ridiculous. I remember tweeting out like, "This is insane!" Like it wasn't even basketball. They were just running back and forth, bumping into dudes. Like guys are trying to throw alleys, getting taken from under their legs. Like it was crazy, but it was fun.
Nobody had anything left, and the guy, Kyle Lowry, still had a little something left to give.
It's driving me crazy.
But
it's driving me crazy. I was like, is this really happening right now?
He is a Miami Heat.
Like you said, AJ, those big games, those big final games, you're gonna have that random guy who shows up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like even game 7, 2016, Warriors. Warriors Cavs. Like,
Warriors,
the last 2 minutes was just like no one scored until the Kyrie 3. It was like the longest drought ever. But yeah, you're right, AJ. There is this sort of thing about those big finals games where it's either an elimination game or game 7 where it just gets weird. But it's the best basketball from a viewer point.
And I think that's the highest level of basketball, is when the stakes are that high and everybody is just so desperate to get over the finish line, and pretty much nobody can shoot at that point. And the only person who could shoot in that entire game was Nikola Jokic, who went 12 of 16 and was the best player on the floor and left no doubt in my mind, and I think in anybody's mind, that he has the belt as the best player in the world, and somebody's going to have to rip it out of his beautiful lunch lady arms and hands. I love his arms so much, man. That's what I think of when I think of Jokic, is how majestic his arms are when he's tapping the ball to himself, when he's doing a no-look pass, when he's dribbling. I just love that man's wacky inflatable tube arms. And he took everything Bam and Jimmy and Kyle Lowry and Spo. Spo was going to get on the court himself. It was all fantastic. I am. The Heat made 2 finals and were 1 Jimmy Butler 3-pointer in game 7 against the Celtics last year for making the finals 3 times in 4 years. And does it mean that the regular season doesn't matter anymore and that we're going to have lower seeds make deep playoff runs in the NBA? No, I actually don't think so. I don't think so. I think this is a total anomaly that we're not going to see again. And they have been properly applauded for it. And I feel bad for Heat fans who can't be happy with it because they didn't win the title. I feel bad for that, because you have to just enjoy the ride. And even if they didn't win the title, it's like a tumultuously great run.
Yeah, I think the reason it might hurt them a little more is that they've gotten to the finals twice. But like I said, when the Celtics lost to the Heat, I'm like, whether the Celtics made it or not, there's a difference between getting there and actually winning. And it's that level Denver's at where you can win those tight dogfight games. It's like the first 45 minutes can be one game, and then the last 2 minutes can be a completely different game. And those last 2 minutes is the game you need to win.
Yeah, facts.
And the Heat can win that last 2 minutes. They just don't have the legitimate firepower.
Yeah, they're just not at Denver's level.
All due respect.
And they could throw the zone at Denver all they wanted, and it just didn't matter because they couldn't be knocked off guard and just took care of the ball. The Heat try and speed teams up, try and force live ball turnovers, and the Nuggets are too calm and too careful with the basketball to let that get to them and to give up. There's not going to be a game where they turn the ball over 18 or 20 times. The great centers, and particularly Jokic, presents such a high floor game to game, series to series, season to season for his team. That's what kind of the great big guys have the ability to do. And like if Jokic plays next year, what's the worst record Denver could possibly have? 54 wins?
I was gonna say they're guaranteed 50 wins. Easy. Yeah. I mean the Heat, they're a good team. This is like why I enjoyed these finals too, because you have these two really good teams. You can even argue Miami's probably better coached than Denver. Like these two really good teams, very disciplined, well coached. Except one guy just has this all-time generational guy, and that was really the difference in these finals. And that's why, like, when all the things are sort of even, dudes matter, and Denver has a dude.
Right. It's the most star-driven league, and the cream eventually rises to the top.
And the fact that Michael Malone and Eric Spoelstra have both been given the keys and given the ability to grow and develop as coaches, when both of them could have been fired, after the Heat lost the first finals against
Dallas,
or when they lost to the Spurs in 2014.
Right.
I bet there were questions about Spo, and he is not only the best coach in the league and has been for years, he's one of the 5 or 6 best coaches ever, and there's not really any argument about it.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Mike Malone, I think I hadn't been giving him the proper due in my own head, and now I recognize that he too is deserving of mention in the upper echelon of coaches. And unlike Mike Malone and unlike Eric Spoelstra, other NBA coaches are not being given that sort of leash. And that's one of the things you wanted to talk about, Gabe, was NBA head coaches.
And maybe this has been, on the list, we have coaches that are on a short leash. And maybe this has been transpiring over the past few years, but it was this season where it really got crazy, where you had Monty Williams, you had
noticed it
Bud,
more, right?
You had Nick Nurse, all guys who have been in the finals in just the last few years getting canned. And we had Frank Vogel. Coach Bud. And we had Frank Vogel just a few years ago get fired. And it goes back to what you said, AJ, not to throw a shot at LeBron, but there was that story that came out about a Heat player in 2011 going into Pat Riley's office trying to get Spo
I wonder who
out
that
of there.
was.
And he didn't. And now the Heat have had this long-term success where year after year, no matter who's on the team, they're going to be competitive. Where Phoenix cut bait. Who knows? Monty's probably last on the list of coaches I just mentioned who have been fired. But Coach Bud, with the unfortunate tragedy with his brother, and then Nick Nurse, who, similar to Spo, no matter who was on the Raptors the past few years, they've always been somewhat competitive, at least. For those guys to just get fired, it was weird. Nurse seemed maybe like it could have been a mutual thing, but how can you expect coaches? It's like I feel like it's like cutting bait on players too soon. Like it's like if you don't win a title with Jason Tatum after 5 or 6 years, we're just gonna get rid of him. I don't like it. I don't think it's fair. I think it would be freaking weird as hell in any other job field. And I think the discourse around the coaches getting fired is weird too, because at the end of the day, yes, they're going to be okay if they get fired because that's just the nature of coaches are always going to be able to find another home. Maybe not another head coaching job, but they're always going to be able to find something.
And Monty Williams and Nick Nurse have already found new homes.
Already. It's just, I don't think that's how you build a culture. I think that's how you build a losing culture. Doc Rivers also got fired, but who knows?
Mm-hmm.
It's another guy who has recently got fired. These aren't guys who are going 20-62.
No.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that? How do you guys feel about the? Do you think this is the way the league's going to be going forward, or is there going to be sort of a shift in this?
I think it's probably gonna continue going forward because I think, like y'all said, it's such a players' league, and I mean, I don't know if it's the main reason Doc got fired, but I know that James Harden apparently had you know, a lot to say in whether he wanted Doc to come back or not. It seemed like he didn't want him to come back, and Harden's sort of at that, sort of in this moment too, where he's looking for the contract from Philly, and it seems like he decided that Doc wasn't returning if he was. So it also depends on the culture too, Gabe. I think that's a key word because if you
Right.
have the right culture, then I don't think players will feel as inclined to just make these big decisions when they probably shouldn't be. Maybe owners won't be as influenced as much, and you'll get the sort of consistency that you see in Denver and Miami. But I don't know. I think in the aggregate, it's probably going to continue more, just because it's the players these days and the way it's covered everything. It's different.
It is the nature of the beast. It's the nature of coaching and the nature of team sports, I think. I think the short leash for coaches happens in football. It happens in world, like football, a ton with managers in soccer, and certainly in American football. And it's the nature of expectations and a fan base and just the obsession that sports fans have with winning and franchises have with winning can drive them to do things that perhaps are not as good in the long term for things that are more appeasing to fans and players in the short term. It's also just really effing hard for, a guy to coach a bunch of guys and get them to buy in. It's
Right.
so hard. It's so hard for the more people have to coalesce their energy, have good chemistry and combine their energies to make the whole the greater than the sum of the parts, the harder a thing is. That's what a franchise is trying to do. It's from the owner all the way down to the coaches, the players, the training staff, all the way through. That's what, it's really, really hard to direct a movie. It's really, really hard to, you have to have hundreds of people working together. And I don't think that it's easy to do one time, let alone to do again and again and again and again. You have to have this incredibly balanced, cerebral, firm leadership, but not cracking the whip too hard. You think of all the great coaches, they are just so, I think of their demeanor as so steady and even. The Phil Jackson, Greg Popovich, Bill Belichick, even Pep Guardiola with Man City now are all very understanding that the line between winning and losing in sports can sometimes just be a coin flip, and you have to do everything you can to put yourself in the best position to win, and then whatever happens, happens. And I don't know how many franchises have the ability to let somebody grow and foster that. And so we're always going to have, especially as Jeremiah said, in a players league, where the players determine more in the NBA than they do in any other league. If a coach is not a players guy, then they're out of there.
All that being said, I'm very happy, and I was chanting it as low as it got in the playoffs. I'm happy Missoula is staying, because who knows what could go from where they can go from here, and it would be very silly to fire a coach in his first year who was a game away from the NBA Finals.
And again, if in a franchise that's looking for stability at that position, to have a fourth coach in 4 years wouldn't have been that type of move. One of the other things we wanted to talk about is as we get into more and more toxic trends in the NBA, this is perhaps maybe the easiest one to dispense with, but it's MVP discourse.
Yeah.
It's the discourse of the MVP. Gabe, I'm gonna lay out and clear out for you to talk about this.
I just think it's funny that a lot of the people I saw on social media talking about, and who knows how many games they even watch and what facts they're going off of, but just say, damn, Embiid's got Jokic's MVP in his trophy room right now. And it's like, yeah, but the MVP is a regular season award. And Jokic won it twice. And everybody on this podcast think he is the best player in the world. But this season, Embiid had a great season. And Jokic, to win it 3 times in a row, I felt like he would have needed to be that much better than the next guy. And I think in terms of comparing their seasons, it was fairly like this. I would have been mad if Jokic won or Embiid or even Giannis. But I just think it got really nasty and it turned it, and maybe it's always been like this. And I'm just starting to notice, but the MVP discussion is about the best players in basketball that season, the very best. And the entire discussion and discourse is based around tearing the other guy down. And a
Yeah.
lot of the people who participate in those discussions, I feel like the more, and maybe I said this last episode, Jay, but I'm not sure. I feel like the more you watch basketball and the more you're locked in and the more you know about the game, the more centered and boring your take might be. And that
Yeah.
doesn't make for good television. And it's the people who don't watch as much or don't know as much who are the loudest. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where it gets nasty. Because some platforms or networks give these people and I'm not saying I know more basketball than let's say people might be thinking I'm talking about Kendrick Perkins. He was definitely
Yo,
part of the
that's
issue,
the
but I'm
name that
talking
came to
about a
mind.
variety of people from a variety
Yeah.
of different backgrounds. Um, yeah, I think that it got really nasty this year, and you see the same people. It's just lame to go from shitting on Jokic to now you're shitting on the guy you were rooting for to win MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Philly fans who are just gonna root for their guy, and Nuggets fans are gonna root for their guy. But I don't know, you guys. That's how I feel about it. I think it was nasty. I think it was.
I'm with
I
you.
didn't enjoy talking about it. I didn't enjoy the discussion at all. I think
Yeah.
it's one of those things you see it in free agency and talking trades, ways for people who don't really watch to get involved in the basketball discussion. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's where again, people who have a large following can do some serious damage. You know, thought
Yeah.
leaders and whatnot, they lead the way everybody else is going to end up thinking. But Jay, how do you feel about this?
I agree with you 100%. I thought you hit it on the nail. Like it's probably more so an issue with just how society, how we just communicate things and how we sort of digest whether it's sports or anything like politics. I think it's more so just a problem with how our society's kind of built right now. But yeah, I mean that's just how it's gonna be. Like on Twitter, on social media, you're like I probably even the algorithm is just designed in a way to show us more of the tape rather than like maybe a guy breaking down a pick and roll. Like we're probably not going to see as much of those tweets go viral as we will Harden versus Luca. Well, you guys were saying this about those kind
Mhm.
of things, and then
Who
obviously the
knows?
season with the Jokic and Embiid thing. Yeah, but I think like the more. I mean, I don't even know what direction it's gonna go in the future, to be honest. But I think the more like like we try to keep it honest. We try to not just like this podcast. Sort of why we started it was to just speak our minds freely and honestly, and not do things for the take. And
And that might be
there's a lot
boring
of
to some
people.
people. That might be
It,
boring to some people
I
because
think it's.
saying
I
it
think
could be
yeah.
anybody is not as fun as being like, it's definitely Joel Embiid because Jokic can't
Right.
play defense and this and that. Another great
Hmm.
thing. Sorry to go off track. Jokic just
Yeah.
showing his defensive capabilities on the biggest stage was also cool. But carry on.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, and I think like it's just. I think the more. I think the reason why it's boring is because people don't want to put in the work. Like they're just it's easier to not watch these games and like you said, it's easier to just get a take. But I think the more you see like not to toot our own horn, but like guys like us, or even guys like on a way higher, more advanced scale, Tim Legler on ESPN. I think the more you see those people stay consistent with how they want to deliver takes and analysis, um, I guess I'm more so hoping that that'll influence others to actually, okay, like this might be interesting if I'm actually watching it a little more and I kind of see where they're coming from here. Maybe not be all this flashy like headline or anything, but it's just fun, man. Watching sports and like learning about the game and learning how these teams play is actually fun. And I think, people hopefully will start to realize that more. I think that's why it's also good for the game just growing and becoming more international. So I think that'll inspire more people to learn about it. Um, on a slightly deeper level. So we'll see. AJ,
This
what's
this
your
is
take?
not this is not a discussion about MVP discourse. This is a discussion about discourse writ large in
Yeah.
whatever facet you want to talk about it. And people like us just talking into microphones and putting it out on the internet. And I think the three of us understand that we're just trying to have fun and celebrate good and great things. And unfortunately, in 2023, you can't even have a cats versus dog. If I say I like cats,
Yeah.
which I do, I'm a cat guy, it doesn't mean I hate dogs, man. It just
Right.
means I like cats more. If I say I like Nintendo better than Xbox, it doesn't mean I hate Xbox, man. I just, I just, I just, the shades of gray and the shades of nuance when you're talking about anything, any objective, excuse me, subjective thing. I have been saying for a couple of years now among friends that there is no such thing as a guilty pleasure, and there's not really such a thing as a wrong opinion about art, and to some degree sports are art. If you have an opinion, like if you make a playlist of the best songs of the year, you know what? You're right. Everybody is right who makes that playlist. And if you want to vote Embiid MVP or Giannis MVP or Jokic MVP, you're right. You're right about all that. Everybody is right except Mark Jackson. All right? it's
Oof.
it's totally fine. And I do think that the Tim Leglers of the world, God, I really I really wish Tim Legler hadn't gotten so much work done on his face, man. It's hard to look at,
Ooh.
but he does still give great analysis. Shout out to Legs. Uh Zach Lowe, and there are people who clearly put in the work. I think a guy named Thinking Basketball on YouTube has a great YouTube channel digging into the film about Jokic's passing. Uh that stuff is there. It's just not
Yeah.
as it doesn't drive clicks the same way that Stephen A doing Stephen A things does. And they're great at their job in that way, and him and Skip and Cowherd and whomever. And that's whatever drives the clicks is what's going to do it, you know? And I think the only way to fight it is for us to get on here and have nuanced discourse about it at the halfway point of next season.
I I love what you just said, that it's not about the MVP discourse, it's about discourse and how it's okay to disagree about art. Because I've noticed lately, like I'll see some people want to get into sort of a debate, but it's almost like a competition. Like we can't just have different opinions. It has to be a competition. And you're wanting me to completely like go off on whatever your position is so that you can go off on me just for sport. Where AJ, I saw Spider-Man last weekend or the weekend before that. You loved it. You thought it was the best movie since Parasite.
I
I didn't quite, I
I
really liked it too. I didn't quite feel the same. I said why I didn't like it. I said why I liked it. You said a few things too, like that, but it wasn't like this big screaming match or anything. I mean, it happened
yeah,
over DM, but it wasn't this big screaming match or anything. And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
definitely. And I personally, as you know, Gabe, I kind of get excited when I disagree with people. I get
Yeah.
excited, but not in a, you can't just get angry. You can't get angry
Right.
disagreeing with people. You have to get excited to talk
Yeah.
about why someone thinks a certain way. Like why do you think Jokic deserves MVP and why do you think Embiid deserves MVP? Great. fantastic. Let's see who wins MVP, you know?
Yeah.
Spider-Verse upon reflection is the is on par with Dark Knight as the best superhero sequel ever.
Wow.
Yeah. That is a less hot take than it's the best movie since
It's a
Parasite, which
less it's a less
I
hot take,
retract.
but the
It's a
Dark
less
Knight,
hot
man.
take.
Oof.
That's right. I think it's as good as Dark Knight.
I love that though, AJ. Like I've noticed it's maturing too. It's back in the day. I definitely would have got worked up. Jay, I told you about at the gym. There was a guy who didn't have Brady even in his top 5 quarterbacks of all time. And I don't even
Yeah.
know how we got into discussion. But I was laying the case out for like 25 minutes with a smile on my face, laughing
Yeah.
and whatnot. Not like, I can't fucking believe
Ready to
you.
fight him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like but back in the day, I was less mature. I might have been ready to take a chainsaw to him or whatnot. But like things change. I love that. I love that
Yeah.
point, AJ. I love that point.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the other things that stood out to us. Maybe these aren't the same things that stand out to you, loyal Richie and Meko Connection listener. Shout out to you. But like when we talk about the things we remember, these are the things we're going to remember about the 22-23 NBA season, such as the artist formerly known as the Brooklyn Nets.
Hmm. What a run
Oh
that
man.
was.
That feels
Yeah.
like centuries ago at
It
this
feels
point,
like
but it happened.
so
It
long
happened during
ago.
the season.
It
It
was,
happened during
yeah,
the season. Jay, please, you are our former Nets fan on the podcast. Please take it
yeah.
away.
Man of many hats. Um, I mean, it goes back to culture, like kind of what we were talking about earlier with when we were giving flowers to Denver and Miami, just how they have built this culture and built this, stability amongst their superstars and management and coaches. And the Nets were just the complete opposite of that. And that's why they're kind of in the predicament now. It seems like they might be headed in the right direction. There's talks of Dame, wanting to pull up, but yeah, I think it really just comes down to I think it really starts with ownership and what they want for the team and just, you know, surrounding yourself with the right guys you trust, but guys that'll I think also tell you, or not afraid to speak up if they think, things should go another way. Like I remember Jerry West when he was talking about when Steve Ballmer hired him, like one of the things that kind of went into the hiring process was Ballmer telling him, like, I want you to, be honest with me. If I say something and if you disagree, let me know. And I think like elements like that make for a good culture. And the Nets sure didn't have that, but I'm glad it's over. I guess I can say that.
And they pivoted fairly well off the KD
Mm,
thing. Gabe, you were about to say something though.
they definitely did. They definitely did. A nice little feel good story that they ended up in the 6th seed. I like to say I think Kyrie left the Nets and they were a lower seed, and when he left to a 6th seed that turned into 11 seed.
Yeah.
And when he left the Nets, they became a 6th seed. So you can be as good as you want at your profession if you're not agreeable and if you're not all in for the team, it's not going to work out. And Kyrie is a prime example because he's
Kyrie, not a culture guy.
one of the most talented basketball players ever. But you just there's a track record now.
Yeah.
Forget about after 2016. Cut it off there. It's not
It's a
good.
nightmare. Yeah.
And he's not even the most arguable. He probably is, but you take him. That's one dysfunctional thing that a team probably would only deal with once in 10 years. And the Nets, I feel like the Nets dealt with like 5 of them at the same time because you had the
Yeah.
Harden thing the year before. And then not only do you have the Kyrie, you have Ben Simmons. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? The fashion show every week. Taking shots on, I mean, this was in the playoffs, taking shots at Philly from his couch after not playing any basketball. You have KD, another guy, another superstar who signs a contract and then immediately and then wants out. And is like, I want to be traded, but I want to decide where I go to. You have all that happening at once on this team. And again, AJ, it's really with all that happening, they ended up with a 6th seed. They ended up with a really nice young player, a couple really nice young players, but a really, really nice young player in Mikal Bridges.
And now I bet they all just get a little bit more sleep at night. All the ownership
Definitely,
and
definitely.
management of the Nets are just like, okay, now we are a franchise and not a circus. And where do we go from here? And now we are a ship on a voyage, you know?
Yeah.
And now the circus, the team that is most circus like is the team that those two dudes have gone to. It's the Mavericks with Luca and Kyrie, and who knows what's going to happen there. And the Phoenix Suns, who we are going to talk about because I'm going to remember the fact that they traded for Kevin Durant, which was just a nuclear bomb that dropped in the middle of the season.
Yes.
And Gabe, you were saying that this is just classic new owner stuff from Matt Ishbia.
New owners. I
Yeah.
can't wait when the Charlotte has new owner. Anytime
Oh,
the owner's in the news for any reason, could be making a donation or anything. Jay, I'm just gonna text you new owner
you
syndrome.
understand?
Just for no reason. But yeah, Ishbia, I mean, interesting podcast appearances. Of course, he had the bang out with Jokic that
The
we'll all
flop.
remember. Yeah, just embellishing.
Kyle Lowry blushed at that flop.
Right, right. Saying fuck it, we're getting KD. I don't care how good of a player Mikal Bridges is or Cam Johnson or how far this team has gone with these guys. We're getting one of the best players of all time in return, who then, Jay, you like to say he slips on a banana peel like a week later and doesn't return until the playoffs.
Yeah.
And this didn't happen in the season, 2023 off season, can we say? Because after all this, we had the Suns already on our list. We've been talking about this list for a couple weeks. Just this past weekend, they land Bradley Beal. And we're in another situation where I feel like a KD team, you're gonna have all these guys, and somehow people are gonna be able to say there's no help. But that's just the way this team is being constructed. I think the Beal thing is a discussion for another day. We could really get in depth and probably talk about it for 20 minutes. But I think it just adds on to all just transactions. When I think the Suns, I think transactions. And I'll also remember Devin Booker. You mentioned it earlier, AJ. Just turning into the greatest player of all time for short stretches. Just the greatest player of all time. Unstoppable shooting. I have no other way to describe it.
Yeah.
For just going nuclear. And those 2 wins against this Nuggets team look even crazier now that you saw what the Denver did to the going forward.
I have a sneaking suspicion we may bring up one of those 2 games, 3 and 4, when we talk later about what our favorite games of the regular season and playoffs were.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
And
for Phoenix, yeah, go ahead, AJ.
no, please, Jeremiah, please.
Well, I was gonna say it's like with Phoenix, they made the KD trade before the whole news of the next CBA and the second apron and all that. And I think like every move since then has sort of just been like, all right, we've already kind of wrote our own destiny once we traded for KD. Like this team is already gonna be, really sort of restricted when it comes to cap and who they can sign. So like them signing Bradley Beal to me wasn't a big surprise. It made sense considering the KD trade was already you making that move that,
Mm.
we kind of have a I guess plan in mind for the next 3 or 4 years. So I thought the Bradley Beal trade was like the next logical thing to do after the KD thing, which is,
Mm.
there's more debate that can go into that KD conversation and whether you make that trade or not looking back. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but yeah, Bill's a son.
Chris Paul's not.
That's
Chris
pretty
Paul's
crazy.
not
Yeah.
anymore.
And Aiton might or might not be in a week. Like they're
Yeah,
they're not done.
I
That's
don't
the
think so.
thing.
He's not. They're going to break him into a couple of smaller pieces just because they need more NBA players on their team. And I think
Right.
the Aiton thing
Yeah.
ran its course there 2 years ago.
So I don't know, because like I don't know what they're gonna do with Aiton. Like I really don't know because you bring in Vogel and he's this defensive minded coach and sort of the staple of his philosophies on defense is having a big that can protect and
Mhm.
sort of move around. And you heard him in the press conference talk about how he can't wait to connect with Aiton and go over a plan. And I think part of the reason why it was so bad was because of the relationship between Monty and Aiton. So you bring
Right.
in a new
Right.
coach and then you trade Aiton, like that wouldn't make sense to me. But I get the depth argument too, like trading a 10 for 2 5s. But I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do because this is kind of the year they can get away with it. I think next year is when the real penalties start to kick in with the new
Matt
CBA.
Ishbia is at the bar. He caught a buzz, and then he traded for KD, meaning he ordered like a fucking big old Long Island iced tea, and he drank that, and he's really drunk. And even after he's really drunk, when he's like an 8 out of 10, he's like, you know what?
Fuck
We're
it.
getting another fucking Long Island iced tea right now. This is the, am I
Yeah.
gonna have a hangover in the morning, like when the second apron hits in a year or two? Yes, that's for future me. That's for future me to worry about.
Right.
That's for future me to worry about. I'm gonna
I
worry about that
respect
when
it
I wake
though.
up.
I respect it. If you're gonna flirt around that apron and already kind of face the penalties from it, you might as well just punch through that whole glass ceiling and just fucking deal with it. Like you traded
That's
for KD. You
if you're
made your decision.
if you're drunk in the club, get drunk in the club and
Get
dance,
drunk.
man.
Yeah.
Matt
Have
Ishbia is
fun.
having himself a night.
Yeah. And I
What?
mean
Yeah.
like, yeah. Well, go ahead, Gabe. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick, whether it's good or bad, they won't be in basketball purgatory, which is
Yeah.
a plus. If I'm a fan of a team, I'm like,
Worst place
we're
to
either gonna be
be.
really good or it's gonna
Yeah.
be not great, and
Right.
we'll go from there.
Hmm.
And you
Yeah.
get to watch KD, Booker, and Beal. you know, that is an
Which,
insane amount of
yeah.
offensive firepower. It's cool. And I think because the Suns had so little time to gel, we didn't really, we only got a taste of what they could look like. And Kevin Durant has, when he is a part of a super team, usually that team has one of the most legendary offenses ever. So we'll see. I also wanted to talk. We have a couple other things we wanted to talk about.
Mhm.
Gabe, you have next on our list one of the most memorable things of the 2022-2023 NBA season, the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes.
I'm
The
excited
the
to talk about this kid.
the incredible, just jaw-dropping, mouth-watering talent of Victor Wembanyama and what NBA teams did to give themselves the best shot at him.
Yeah. First of all, it's fit. I felt like it was fitting that he's going to San Antonio, unless we get the biggest curveball of all time.
Nah,
It'd be fitting. It's fitting
yo,
that
that
he
would be funny.
San Antonio Belichick would trade back for
San
fucking
Antonio
the
drafts
Thompson twins.
Dick Grady with the first pick.
Great. Um,
I like Dick Grady, by the way. Continue, Gabe.
Grady Dick me. Um, yeah, Wembanyama, it's the greatest prospect since LeBron. And we've had some great prospects since then. We've had Zion, we've had AD, we've had KD, we had
Yeah,
we had Greg Oden. We've had some great players coming into the league, and Wembanyama, the hype is more than any of those, dating
yeah.
back to LeBron. And it's very exciting that I like that the Spurs got him, because you had a lot of these teams that were participating in the sweepstakes, where teams are participating in the sweepstakes for whoever is going to be the number one pick every year. I didn't want him going to Charlotte. I'm happy that the 1 year the Spurs actually decide to tank, they get rewarded for it, even though people are
Yeah.
pissed that, oh, they got fucking Duncan and they got David Robinson. The only other, I mean, Portland was in the sweepstakes too. We saw a lot of teams that were actually good. I mean, the NBA is so deep now. You have a lot of great rosters. There was a
I
lot of
mean,
teams that participated in the sweepstakes that probably
Dallas,
could have
Dallas
snuck
entered
into
the
the play.
run. Yeah,
Yeah,
Dallas basically entered the run the last 3 games. They're like, fuck
right.
it, we're gonna get a 1% chance. Let's see what happens.
Yeah,
And
But
now they
yeah,
kept their pick. They have that 10th pick now, and it's
yeah,
not going to the Knicks as the last part of the Porzingis trade.
yeah, yep. By the
But
way, how fitting for the Wizards to decide to tank the year after possibly the greatest prospect ever might come into the league.
it's that is about as maddening as it gets.
Poor Wiz. But yeah,
The Wiz have never had a 50-win season.
it's just typical Wizards. But yeah,
How many NBA franchises would absolutely go on just a bender if they had the season the Celtics just had?
oh,
And Celtics,
ooh,
and I don't know
absolutely.
I don't think I know one happy Celtics fan. And there are 7 or 8 franchises that have never gotten to game 7 of the conference finals.
Mm.
Clippers have never gotten to game 7 of the conference finals. The Hornets, so the Kings have only done it once. it's wildness. The Wizards, and just to keep it in perspective, that this is what a lot of teams have to deal with. Wembanyama seems like he's going to be that good.
Right.
I don't think there's a version of him that plays 12 healthy seasons that isn't a Hall of Famer. And
Yeah.
I think we talked about this on a previous pod, that the only prospects that compare are in football, I guess maybe John Elway or Andrew Luck to some degree. In basketball, it's LeBron. And in hockey, it's Ovechkin. Ovechkin was the number one pick from the time he was 14 all the way until he was 18. He got drafted, and then he became one of the GOATs.
Has there ever been a baseball guy like that?
Oh, Tom, it's not. That's
It's
the
not
thing.
the
Like
same
one
thing.
baseball player
There's
can't
so many.
decide
Yeah.
your entire, like the two best players in baseball are on the same team, and that team's not good with
Right.
Otani and Trout. I'd also throw in McDavid for hockey.
Connor McDavid,
Mm.
sure. Yeah, he was very hyped and is now great. But
Right.
the one basketball player makes more difference than anybody except perhaps a franchise quarterback. And even a franchise quarterback is only on the field half the time.
Yeah.
Victor Wembanyama is going to have a couple of blocks this season that are
He
going to break the internet.
he might be all defensive rookie year. Like not all defensive rookie team, like all defensive first team rookie year. Yeah, his like I don't I think that might happen.
I don't think he's gonna
Um
be very, very good.
some
I
Greg
just
Oden
sag.
potential.
I just sag.
Bust.
The
I think
San
what's so
Antonio
impressive
Spurs.
though, yeah, I thought like hearing him just I don't know if you guys heard the little snippet that came out earlier today from the JJ Redick podcast. I guess they're having him on this
No,
week.
go ahead.
And he's just wired differently, bro. Like he was just talking about how the pressure of being the top prospect and what his goals are in the league. And he's not like, I mean, he said he's like, this is more than basketball to me. Like I'm more so focused on existing in this universe and being myself, just like this like next level kind of thinking from an 18-year-old
Keep
who's
him
about to
away
get
from
drafted.
Kyrie.
Yeah, uh-oh. I seen some funny replies about Kyrie under the tweet, but yeah, like he's just I don't know. I think it might even go back to these international guys we were talking about Jokic earlier in this regard. Like they, I think they just like basketball is just a sport to them, but they're sort of just seeking a different sort of fulfillment, with just how they're living life, just how they go about life. It's not about championships and this and that. Like when Benyama knows he's great, but I don't know, just hearing him talk, it's like, wow, this kid is different, man.
Whether you have sort of the sociopathic obsession that we have talked about and I have harped on and on about on this pod, that a lot of the great athletes, Michael Jordan, have had, the KG, Kobe, Giannis, all these guys obsessed. If the work ethic is there, then it's the
Yeah.
results can be similar. I feel like if Wembanyama is ready to put the work in, then he's going to be great. And if you're not ready to put the work in, if you're somebody who's not going to be as in shape as you possibly can be every year, if you're Luka, if you're Zion, if you're
Mhm.
Shaq even, then you're not going to reach your full potential.
Yeah, and I think
know?
he already gets that too. Like that's what's so impressive about him. It's just really to me, it's the way he thinks because he was even saying like in that snippet, like I deserve everything that's coming because I know I worked for it. Like he knows he's already put in the work. Like he knows what the rewards that come from hard work, and he gets that. And none of this is a surprise to him. So I mean, I'm really excited to watch him play. Obviously, we hope he stays healthy. There's fear with that, with being 7'5" and just the body type he has. But man, if that guy, like you said, AJ, if you can lock in 10, 12 years, that's easy Hall of Fame career right there.
I also would like us to sing the praises of another team. Wembanyama, we are going to be singing his praises for years. And sorry to all the teams that did not get him. The Spurs got him, which means we may have Greg Popovich in our lives for like 5 or 6 more years than
Right,
we were
right,
going to otherwise.
for sure.
So if we get 5 or 6 more years of him curmudgeonly answering sideline questions, I'm here for it. Because when him and Belichick are gone and no longer making stone-faced replies to things, I'm going to miss them both a
Yeah.
lot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And something I missed a lot that came back this season is the excitement of this franchise that is the Sacramento Kings.
Mm.
Just an absolute shot in the arm, fantastic story that was a delight all season. Watching the fully realized version of a guy, De'Aaron Fox, who everybody in the league loved, who I loved at Kentucky, him and Monk together, and to have them finally be on the same team, to have Domantas Sabonis just bully people and basically uh, a karaoke version of Jokic, karaoke. That's kind of what Sabonis does a little bit. A lot of dribble handoff stuff, a lot of bully ball, and just fantastic rebounder to watch. Mike Brown have some redemption. You want to talk about coaches and short leashes? It's awesome
Right.
to watch him after years of being an assistant in Golden State and the previous runs with LeBron get his flowers and win Coach of the Year was awesome. And
Yeah.
they did everything they could against the defending champs. And it took Steph Curry having the most points in a game 7 in history, at least for a couple weeks, to beat them. And I really, really do not want that to be a 1-year thing. I want them to come back with a vengeance next year, because that is one of the things I'll remember most about the year is clutch master De'Aaron Fox and the Kings.
Yeah.
I suppose that's all we have to say about that.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
I don't do. Go ahead, Gabe.
yeah, it's very impressive. I have one of their, spoiler alert. I had a few of games that I listed for best games of the playoffs. One of them involved the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah.
I think it was awesome to see Fox take the next step. And
Mm.
it was like you said, AJ, Fox and Monk go way back. It was nice to see two guys that like each other also complement each other on the court. And then the Mike Brown story is also great. And the beam, lighting the beam. And this, you got to feel so good for this city that has just been, that has no other professional sports team, at least I don't believe so, that haven't seen anything like this in years.
Yeah.
And we could throw out a million crazy stats of last time that the Sacramento Kings won a playoff series. I'm sure a bunch of crazy shit, when they're like last time LeBron James didn't make the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes was in his mom's stomach. Like it's stuff like that, There's a bunch
Yeah.
of those that happen with the Kings. And I've always been fascinated by the Kings and their fans and whatnot. Because
Yeah.
it's just this sort of random city that
Mhm.
has a loyal basketball fan base, and it was great to see them
As a
have
non
something to root
sequitur, the
for.
best one of those ever is the picture of young LeBron with the PlayStation 2 in his hands, like carrying it.
Yeah.
It always gets me.
Or him at
But him with the flip phone,
WWE with the flip phone. Yeah.
that man's been around a long time.
Yeah,
And honorable mention in terms of him breaking the scoring record is something we'll remember, and we talked about in this pod, and
definitely.
et cetera. The Kings have a chance to make it 2 years in a row, and we're definitely going to talk about a Kings game when we get to the end of the pod. We are also going to talk about one of the, last year, 2021-22, we had the mid-season turnaround of the Boston Celtics, who were 18-21 and then finished the year 28-7 in their last 35 games, made game 6 of the finals. Spectacular in-season turnarounds. This year we had the Lakers rebuild themselves on the fly and do the addition by subtraction of Russell Westbrook, who subsequently had a little bit of redemption with the Clippers, and I was very happy about
A little
that.
bit.
Shout out to Russ having a little bit of redemption. A little bit. Not a ton, a little bit.
Right.
And got an incredible got the most out of Rui Hachimura, got a national coming out party thing from Austin Reeves throughout the playoffs, and got the Lonnie Walker game, which was awesome. The Lonnie Walker game was awesome, and became a very good team that nevertheless got swept, but a remarkable in-season turnaround that is one of the things we'll probably remember.
Yeah, definitely.
What say you, Jay?
Yeah. I mean, no, I'm with you. I thought that
All
was,
right, sorry, Gabe. Sorry.
No, I'm in the gulag. Sorry, no worries. I'm in the gulag. Go ahead, Jay.
I can hear both of you guys good, but Yeah, no, I'm with you, AJ. It was I guess it was. I mean, I don't get too excited when LeBron team starts to flourish, but it was cool. It was cool seeing them turn it around. That Lonnie Walker moment, like that was pretty fun to watch just as a basketball fan. Um, and yeah, I mean that's another team you kind of have to. You still got LeBron, you still got AD. Those are two guys I think when they're healthy,
Hmm.
you have to take them serious. Can they stay healthy? Like how much, you know, I mean it's been kind of rough the past two seasons. LeBron's only getting older, but it seems like they still want to compete for titles, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I just don't get too excited when I see the Lakers do well, I guess.
I was scared of them like I was scared of the Heat. AJ, I feel like I had a conversation with you earlier this year, and I felt like the guy in a disaster movie who's like afraid of the disaster coming, and you were like, Lakers aren't winning the finals. I remember
Oh
something you were trying to
yeah.
calm me down or something. And then all of a
I was
sudden,
trying to calm you down. It's true.
Denver, all of a sudden, it's game one versus Denver, and
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
Jokic and Murray
yeah,
both have
you.
5 fouls. And I'm like a conspiracy theorist, like it's fucking meant to be, blah blah blah. They're a team of destiny, and
Yeah,
thank God
you were
for
doing
Jokic.
the Charlie Day and Oh It's
Exactly,
Sunny.
you got
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
You got yeah. Um, but yeah, I totally respect the Lakers. Ooh, I forgot to put them, but we have to talk about Ja and Zion's woes.
yeah,
But
for sure.
the Lakers all of a sudden had a face turn with me where there were points in the season where I was actually rooting for them, where it was a likable bunch. It wasn't Showtime. It was a gritty group of guys. And that was interesting to see with a LeBron Lakers team.
Yeah.
So yeah, hats off to them. I feel like they slightly overachieved this year, and but with LeBron and AD, you can always build around that going into next year. But I hope nothing works out for them because I I just I can't handle it. My mental health, I can't handle it. If and I thought it was I thought we were heading towards a Lakers Celtics finals where the Celtics losing 7 to the Lakers, and
Well,
I
that'd
might I
be
would have went off the
No.
grid. Would have went completely
yeah.
off the grid if that happened. This podcast
And
would cease to exist.
Gabe's not joking when he says that
I
either.
know
Like,
he's not. That's why I'm
yeah.
I
laughing. He's
cursed
not
the
joking.
Lakers. I cursed the
Yeah.
Lakers in the Denver series. I put a curse
Uh,
on
Oh
them.
man.
it was fascinating to watch year 20 LeBron have to pick and choose his spots so much and save himself. I'm trying to think what anime Dragon Ball Z sort of reference to make here. Is there maybe a fight where
Mm.
old Goku chooses his spots, but no, Saiyans just get stronger as they get older. So that's not, the relative
Yeah.
thing. But the the fact that he played all 48 in game 4 and put up 31 in the first half and still could empty the tank like that is pretty incredible and is going to get lost a little bit in Jokic's greatness and deserves. Obviously, Jokic has received all the flowers and then some. But LeBron left it all out on the floor and is still competing like this. And I want LeBron's last game, I want the end to be a playoff game like that. I want
Oh,
the
definitely,
end to
yeah.
be something like that rather than a regular season farewell
The old
on a
gunslinger.
bad team. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a gunslinger who cannot shoot threes and just puts up an absolute brick house whenever he takes 8 or 9 threes in a game.
This during this playoff run, yes. I mean,
It
I've
was
always said
bad.
about LeBron, not a great shooter, but when it's time to be great, he shoots, and he's hit a
Yeah.
lot of big shots. This time around, not so much. Not
No,
so
sir.
much. Not so
Yeah.
much. But we can keep it pushing to another team that lost in the conference finals. And I do want it before we forget, because I didn't list them. I'll type them in the chat now. I want to get to Zion and Ja because that is something that I will remember from this season. But
Mm.
we got to talk about the Celtics, unfortunately.
Yeah. About and it's a sort of a 2-year discussion because it's rare to see a team shoot themselves in the foot as often as they do and then get themselves out of trouble so many times. And it's all because in the final 6 minutes of games in the regular season and playoffs the last 2 years, they have routinely gotten out executed by teams, and they are the opposite of Murray and Jokic at the end of game 5 against Miami after, Butler gets that awful. We didn't even talk about it. That foul call that they had where Butler kicked Gordon in the nuts is one of the one of the
I
craziest.
thought you said the ref
is one of the
swallowed the
craziest
whistle
things I've ever seen
earlier.
in my league.
You said the ref swallowed the
Oh
whistle
my
earlier. I was like,
God.
not there. Not there. They didn't. I was
Oh my
having a
God.
panic attack when that happened. Not like this, man. It was like watching wrestling, like the screw job, like the Montreal screw job, bro. It was crazy.
Absolutely. And what did they do? They calmly came back down the floor, ran a Murray Jokic pick and roll, got Caleb Martin on a switch, and Jokic went by Martin like he wasn't there and scored a layup and got the lead back.
Mhm.
The Celtics have not done that in crunch time of a game, save for maybe game 6 against Atlanta. They ran some stuff with Marcus Smart
Right.
late, but in general, their crunch time execution is awful and has cost themselves. There's a scenario where they win the finals against the Warriors if they have better crunch time execution. And there's certainly a scenario where they beat the Heat and make the finals again this year if they execute better in crunch time, most notably the end of game 2, where people gave Grant Williams a bunch of crap. I thought unnecessarily.
I agree.
For talking crap to Jimmy. Like, good for Grant, honestly. He may never play for the Celtics again, and I will miss Grant Williams. I am the proud owner of a rookie Grant Williams jersey. But the crunch time woes need to be solved if they are going to get back to the finals. And it's fascinating to watch because just when you think they're out, they are down 9 in game 4 against the Heat. In the early third quarter, they give up a couple of offensive rebounds. Max Strus hits a 3 to make it 61-52. And then Jason Tatum climbs himself out, hits back-to-back threes, and they come back, win that game, win game 5 going away, are up by 10 in game 6 with 4 minutes left, blow it again like they have so often, and blow it, and Jimmy Butler makes all 3 free throws. And then Derek White has the probably the single most memorable moment of the playoffs in that buzzer beater, honestly. He said, the biased Celtics fan, I lost my goddamn mind. I'm sure we all lost our minds.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
When I realized he got it off in time, I ran around like a madman. But after that, everybody was back in on them and everybody favored the Celtics. And when they have all the when everybody is expecting them to win, that is when they fold.
And
that is,
I was there at game 7 and the building was ready. Like most of the crowd sang the national anthem. That's how you know a crowd's locked in.
Yeah.
Is when a crowd sings the national anthem. And then Tatum rolled his ankle the first play, and just the execution against Miami's zone was maddening for them not to beat it for layups and free throws and to settle for contested threes. Just they did not deserve to beat the Miami Heat, and that is why they did not.
We got to talk about Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, and
that was a major part when your first player gets hurt and your guy who's about to make $300 million is your number 2 guy, and he just is like, I'd rather have what we saw from Kyle Lowry in game 5 of the NBA Finals than what we saw from Jaylen Brown the entire playoffs. And that's concerning. That's what I'll remember from the Celtics playoff run is Jaylen Brown's, I don't know, lack of growth. There was the timeouts. We'll all remember the timeouts, which I thought was a tad bit overblown because I would see Malone do the same thing Mazzulla does and get no shit for it because they won and we play the results. But the Brown, I don't want to. Just the role players sort of falling back again. Brogdon played awful, and then you find out he's hurt, which is like, oh, we'll cut you some slack. But then it's like, right, we got Brogdon for that price because he's always hurt. So this is the reality with him. Rob Williams, you find out he had a stomach ache or whatever the fuck in game 7. Oh, right, Rob's never 100%. And then Tatum, it was just a fucking bummer. The fact that the Heat got injuries from two of the most durable stars in the league with Tatum and Giannis is like, it's a little Heat black magic, if you ask me. But nonetheless, disappointing. You said earlier, AJ, yes, many other fan bases would die to be in their position. But like I said about the Heat losing twice in the finals, it's when when it keeps happening the same way year after year, that's what makes it maddening.
Yeah.
Jay, the question I have for you and then for Gabe is, let's assume, and I think a lot of people are assuming that the Celtics supermax Jalen. I think they will do that, which means they cannot trade him for a year, and they are essentially going to run this back. If they make a trade, it'll be with one of the guards, not named Derek White. Can this team, whether they make the final, can they solve their crunch time issues? And if they do, what is the most likely way that they solve their crunch time issues? How do they do it?
That's a great question. Because I think the reason they have these crunch time issues is because of, I think, an issue with just the identity of the team and like who they really are. And I think this kind of even goes back to the Kyrie years and then the Kemba years where they've always just been really talented, but they don't have like that one thing they lean on. And you kind of saw it a little bit when Ime in the second half of last season. They started to lean on defense and, it got them to the finals. But I don't know, because, I don't know if that issue of this, this identity of a team comes from just the personality of your two best guys, not being these alpha sort of, just dudes on the court, or if it's the three coaches in the last 5, 6 years or whatever it was. Like,
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of different factors, and we can point to many different reasons. But I think until this team really figures out who they are, and I think that's why I'm kind of happy that they kept Missoula, because that's probably the first step. Is first, building some stability, and then from there, I think you can, learn who you are as a team. But I think until they really figure out who they are and what's the thing that they can really lean on when things get shaky, it's probably going to be the same result. Just, deep playoff runs. You might make another finals, but to win the big one, you got to know who you are. Denver, they know exactly who they are. They have the guy, but then even the other players, they know their roles. With Boston, it's just a lot of talent, it's flash, but that doesn't work. And in these playoff games, when it gets tight, that's, I think, where you really start to see those flaws. So I think you have to keep Jalen, just because I don't know what the other move would be that would really move the needle. Like maybe Dame, but I mean, he's what, 33? He's gonna make a shitload of money in the next 4 years. So 32, yeah, but I don't know, man. I think you have to keep Jalen though, and I hope they just really figure some things out going forward. But we'll see. What do you think, Gabe?
I think a few things. I think Junior said it best on one of our past few episodes. It'd be great to have a guy in there, and I love Al Horford so much. One of my favorite Celtics of all time. It'd be great to have a veteran in there who has won a title. Not a superstar, not a former all-star player, but a guy who knows what it takes. Like Denver has a KCP who's not afraid of the moment, who's not afraid when he's going up against a LeBron and AD. They need someone like that. I'd love to have a coach. I'd love to have the plays of Brad Stevens coming out of timeout where, yes, the Celtics have crumbled down the stretch in many playoff games in the past few years. But I remember many times where Brad Stevens would drop a play. I remember specifically a play versus Philadelphia where we won on a last second shot with Al Horford. It was all Stevens's play and they executed it perfectly. We could have Stevens. If we could have Ime Udoka's intensity and fucking Joe Mazzulla's ability to watch the town 5 times a week, I think we'd have a much better leadership in the locker room. And I do,
Yeah.
here's why I do think, and it's gonna happen. All of the veteran presence, not just on the court, but these assistant coaches they just got, like a Sam Cassell, they're filling up the bench with legit NBA assistant coaches, where before it looked like, guys who work at Foot Locker who were all halfway out the door already going to Houston. So that wasn't
Yeah.
fair to Missoula either.
Cassell, the amount of reassurance I get from Sam Cassell, who was on the 08 title team, has been an assistant coach under Doc for years, and is known for a celebration where he talks about how big his balls are. That's the Sam Cassell celebration. He won a title with the Rockets his first 2 years or his first year.
Yeah.
He has done nothing but win his whole life. I
Took the Clippers far.
believe in his ability to talk to Tatum and Brown about different little minute ways to protect the ball in crunch time so that they don't dribble it off their foot or turn it over. And yes, I think a veteran of that ilk, of the KCP ilk, even a guy like PJ Tucker, who won a title
Right.
with Milwaukee, a scrapper who, if Danny Green were a couple years younger, something like that.
If Draymond wasn't with Clutch and thought Boston was
Oh
the Ku
God,
Klux Klan,
yeah, Draymond and Boston.
it'd be awesome.
Oh my
It'd be
God.
perfect. He'd be the perfect guy in theory that would
Exactly
help
what they
this
need.
team. Besides
Yeah.
the punching teammates part.
Close your eyes. Does anything make less sense than Draymond in a Celtics uniform in your head? I just can't. It could. I don't
Yeah.
see it, man.
It
Like, you know how you
doesn't
see
because
those-
of who he is as
Yeah.
a person, but him as a player in that intensity would be just what this team needs.
That's what they need. Yeah.
I do. I do sports hate Draymond sometimes, and just got to give it up to him. That dude's a Hall of Famer. That dude
For
should make
sure.
the Hall of Fame. Before we get out of here, I asked you guys to come up with the best game of the regular season and the best game of the playoffs. What did you come up with?
Ooh, who wants to go first? As I'm
I-
opening my notes, so I'm hoping I
opening
don't
my notes
have
too.
to.
I got it too. Sheesh. Let's see. I
We got to
got
start. We got to start with the regular
Celtics.
season.
I got Celtics AJ, the game for your birthday, Celtics Warriors. It was
That's a
that in
great
January?
one.
I have, and I preface it with that I watched because there was great games that I missed in the regular season. I basically watched every playoff game, but there was Clippers Kings had a shootout.
Oh my
where
God!
both
Oh
teams
my
scored like
God! The
200 points and lost their
170.
mind. Yeah.
175 to like
that
78.
that kind of has to be the answer. I remember Robbie and I came home at like 3 a.m. and watched it from like 3 to 5 a.m. The DVR of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Celtics Sixers and Philly where Tatum hit a big three to ice the game. Embiid was
And
amazing
then-
and Philly still lost.
And then Embiid hit
The
the
full
full
court,
court heave.
yeah,
Right,
that
after
was-
forgot about
after the
that part.
buzzer.
Crazy. Yeah.
I have the Embiid Jokic showdown. This is also just important. I put some there just in terms of importance. LeBron breaking the record is an important game that you'll remember.
Yep.
Which is my
Sure.
answer.
Embiid Jokic showdown, where Embiid kicked his ass or got the better of him that night, is another game that will be
Absolutely.
remembered.
It matters. It mattered.
Yep.
Oh, and notables that I didn't catch either of these games, sadly. Mitchell and Dame both had 71-point performances.
Oh,
which has to be
right.
remembered.
And Mitchell, and both in Luka's 60-point game and in
Oh,
forgot about that
Mitchell's
one, too.
How could I
71-point
forget
game.
about the Luka?
They
Yeah.
each had free throw rebound tying moments at the end of regulation of both of those games.
It's crazy.
See the the Mavs turning into not a circus, but a disappointment made me
Yeah.
totally forget about that that performance from Luka. Jay, are you gonna bring up, not to spoil your list, are you gonna bring up the game you went to? Dallas
Well,
Phoenix?
Definitely. That was the
That
last
was
one
a
on my list.
fucking awesome game. Right
Yeah.
after they traded for KD, that was an awesome game.
I mean, that game had it all. It had the Kyrie and KD, just both of like their first time playing each other since the trade. The Luka versus Booker rivalry getting renewed, where both guys were just balling. Of course, the KD game winner. Man, yeah, that was a great moment. I had both the Celtics and Lakers regular season games that they played. Both those games were really entertaining.
The Pat Bev camera will live forever.
And the
That was amazing.
LeBron posting the foul and then Tatum commenting, "Yeah, I fouled you," just being a weirdo. But yeah, that whole thing was funny. Lakers Blazers. I don't know if you guys remember the beginning of the season with the Russell Westbrook pulling up and the announcer going, "Oh no, Russ, no," just like sounding like he was dying. And then the Lakers found a way to lose that game, and I think Jeremy Grant got like a game-winning layup on LeBron. That was fun. The Suns and Pelicans had a week there where
Yes!
Zion did the dunk. Yeah, and
It was a
he
war.
was just, I
Yes.
loved it. And then like a week later, Devin Booker had like 58 points on 60% shooting against them, and it was like, oh, can we get this in the playoffs? But of
Booker
course,
had a
Zion.
Booker had a fadeaway corner three in that game against the Pelicans that made me like fall out of my chair. He when he's
Sucks.
on, I
It's crazy, bro. He had another fall away three in the corner against the Clippers in the playoffs. I think in like game 4, where it was like, what, like what? How? But that was a fun week between those two teams.
Such a good one.
Going back into my past life, the Nets, the game winner Kyrie had against the Raptors. That was a good moment because it was an 18 game winning
Uh,
streak. I was feeling good. KD MVP talks and silly me, right, for thinking that was gonna last. The Celtics Cavs, that was this year, right? I was like, I couldn't
Two
remember
really good
Yeah.
early.
games. They had two really good games.
Yeah, I just remember.
Celtics Cavs had 3 really good games, 2 early in the air, and then the Grant Williams, I'm gonna make them both without Tatum.
Damn,
I
forgot
actually
about
missed
that
that
one.
game. Thank God.
Forgot about that one. I think that's all. Oh, Lakers. Oh, you mentioned this one, Gabe LeBron, the scoring title. Thomas Bryant ceiling, wanting the ball in that
NBA
moment was pretty
champion.
funny.
NBA champion
Yeah,
Thomas Bryant.
Which, for
yes,
the record, I
sir.
think was just muscle memory. I don't think Thomas Bryant
Yeah.
actually wanted the
Hey,
ball. I think that's just muscle memory, man.
hey, it was the right thing to do. He had a smaller guy. Like, you encourage that. You encourage your bigs to do that. The Hogs versus Wolves. This is when Cat came back from basically his leg falling off, and
Oh,
this is a movie.
yeah.
That post game where
What
Oh
a
my
goofy
Cat
God.
guy.
Cat
Kind
is
of I love
funny.
it.
That's all. I think that's all I have. It was oh, the Lakers and Sixers. That just I was gonna say a really bad word, but I'm gonna say stupid instead. That stupid game they had where it was overtime and like both teams wanted to choke so badly.
Another game I found
Oh
myself
my
rooting for
God,
the
the double.
Yeah,
Lakers.
Yeah,
I was rooting
that
for the
was
Lakers that game.
unbelievable.
yeah, that one was wild, and that's my list though. It was a fun season. Then you had moments like Killian Hayes knocking out. Was
Yes.
it Mo Wagner or was it
Gabe, what move did you just make? What did you just remember?
Well, we brought up the Lakers, and Jay, you're bringing up violence. The fucking Grizzlies Lakers game. Shannon
oh
Sharp.
shit,
Yeah,
Like that's gonna live on
Shannon
forever.
Sharp.
T Moran and
Shannon
Shannon
fucking
Sharp. You got
Sharp.
the album cover. That was funny.
And perhaps now Shannon Sharp is the lead in before we get to our best game of the playoffs to talk for a moment about Ja,
Mm.
who just got suspended 25 games by the league for
Well, let me
the second offense with Instagram Live and a gun. Go on, Jay.
let me ask you guys this: you think 25 games was fair? Not fair?
I think the league's out to get him.
Gabe.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I don't, Jay, I don't know, man. I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like if they'd done half a season, that would have felt a little excessive. And 25 is enough that knocks him out of all NBA sort of contention immediately. That's I feel like that's punishment enough,
Yeah.
you know?
It feels like a lot when you look back at other instances. Like some guys, I seen some tweet where like the Gilbert Arenas one was crazy because he was basically trying to have like a Wild West shootout in the locker room, and that deserved the amount of games. But like Steven Jackson, I think only got 7 games for his incident off the court. Like the thing is, like I think if you look at what actually happened, 25 games feels like a lot. But then when you consider he did the same thing, what, 2 weeks before or a month before, I
It's the
guess, and
repeat offender thing. And
yeah,
it's just like, you
that's what it
stupid
is.
kid, we're gonna teach you a
Yeah,
lesson. And I hope he learns a
really what it
lesson. And it
is.
sounds like
Yeah.
he's not gonna, because they're saying he's not taking any responsibility for it. Now they're saying it's a toy
You
gun.
guys see
AJ,
the
what do you think?
video with the gun acting as a lighter? That's like, don't make it worse. But go ahead,
It's
AJ.
too easy. It's like it makes what Jay said about Wembanyama on JJ Redick. You have to,
Yes.
it makes it that much more crystal clear, because it is so easy for a young person to put themselves in an echo chamber
Yeah.
with their people, in especially a famous young person.
Mhm.
I don't envy younger people in general for the fact that each generation has to grow up faster and get cynical at a younger age. And
Yeah.
especially when you have access to what people say about you as a famous young person, I just want Ja for us to love him
Mhm.
on the basketball court, and for him to surround himself with the right people. It puts the LeBron thing in perspective too, that
Mm.
he from day one surrounded himself with the right people and didn't have any sort of this thing whatsoever for 20 years.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
was it Shannon who's saying this, or Jalen Rose who's saying this, or that John Morant has to let go of whatever he shouldn't be trying to impress people in that way whatsoever. And he should just let his game on the court speak for everything and have that be the answer to anybody who wants to like doubt him or hate on him for being a certain way or a certain upbringing. Just you are in the NBA. You are one of the most electrifying athletes I've ever seen in my life. Just let so many people celebrate and love you and watch what you do with your body, which nobody else on earth can do.
And sometimes you have to ask the question, like, what do these guys really want out of their NBA career? Like, do they just love the money and the fame that comes with it and all the attention, or are they really, focused on, making like, etching their name in history in this
Right.
beautiful sport? It seems like John and, our other guy Zion seem like they're still figuring out, I guess, what they really want out of this to me.
Couldn't you have chosen a better looking porn star than Mariah Mills? I feel like there's some alternatives that we could have gone
We're
with
about to get
that.
X-rated here.
Well, no, we're not. We're not
AJ, go
because
ahead. Give
no,
us your
because
top 100 porn.
It's
stop
it's
it. You
late.
stop it. You know how my brain works.
It's
Stop it right now.
it's the
Stop
after
it right
dark
now.
segment
You
of
know
the show.
the way my brain works with basketball statistics.
Uh-oh.
It works that way in other mediums too. So we are not
You
opening
like
that can of worms,
special
so to speak.
special
We're not doing
talents.
that.
Shout out to
Okay,
Guag. Shout out to CHS legend Guaga right now.
Oh yeah.
He knows who he is. Definitely agree with you, AJ, though. Definitely agree with you. But I'll let you continue.
And Zion, I feel for him too, and I just want him to be able to. I want all these guys to be fulfilled and happy, and not everybody is fulfilled and happy by being the best, striving for greatness, right? But I feel like Zion would be more fulfilled and happy if he maximized his potential and got in the best shape ever and just laid waste I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
Who am I to say? Who am I to say what makes Zion Williams happy? But at the very least, I think it would make him happier to be on the court more often and play more than an average of 29 games a year over his first 4 years. And for him to do that, he just has to change a few of his habits, clearly.
Mm-hmm. It's especially disappointing because when he's on the floor, the guy's, he's basically a top 5 NBA player.
A top 5 talent. For sure.
Yeah.
I looked up the highlights of when he had 43 against the Wolves, and it's all drives, and it's
unreal.
Absolutely, he stuffs Gobert in the rim like the Monstars. And
he's nuts.
There's nothing anybody can do with him. And
yeah, he's special.
I just want him to be healthy and play, and I hope him and Ja both have redemption seasons next season.
Two of the funnest players to watch. Seriously.
Guns
and
buns.
Players. Two of the most entertaining athletes in the world to watch when they're at their best. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
What was the best game of the playoffs?
This is a hard one.
Do you want me to read off my list and then I want
to say a couple of mine first, and then because I didn't. You guys had all kinds of honorable mentions and stuff, and Game 4 of Warriors Kings was incredible.
Oh, was that the Steph Curry timeout?
But they didn't have timeout.
Okay,
Steph timeout. Ultimately, I think, and Harrison Barnes. Just the storyline of Harrison Barnes being the guy that got traded for ousted for KD after 2016 and taken off the floor for Festus Ezeli at the stretch of the finals, and then him having that shot and missing it. 127-126 Warriors. Great game. Great Fox game with a broken hand.
Yeah, that's
Fucking
a really good one.
Awesome basketball game.
Awesome.
That series might have had like 2, because even that game 1.
I had game 1. I had game 1 on my list.
Oh
yeah,
my
that
God,
was
game
nuts.
1. It was magical. It was magical.
At the end of the game
where
it just
get that moment.
It was a track meet, and Steph is hitting these fall away corner threes, and Fox is answering right back, and Malik Monk looks like Allen Iverson. That series was fun, man.
My dad was in California with friends in San Fran. He fucking drove up and went to game 2.
Oh,
wow, that's awesome.
Charlie Rose.
That's awesome.
He said, AJ, I spent way too much on tickets, but I gotta go. And he said,
Shout
He'll
out, Mr.
never forget
Rose.
it. Being in. Oh, shout out to Charlie
an
Rose, man.
atmosphere.
Not that Charlie Rose, the good Charlie Rose.
Yeah, I love when AJ when
Uh,
you told me he rose to number 1 in the Charlie Rose power rankings.
Yeah. uh, did we have other nominees for the best game of the playoffs?
Yeah. Celtics Heat game 6, just because of the Derek White moment.
For sure.
Clippers Suns game 1. Kawhi versus KD.
Yeah.
Wow. I was in heaven. I was
That
in
was
heaven.
nuts.
I had Warriors Kings game 1 and 4. I had Lakers Nuggets game 1 and game 4.
Yep.
Mhm.
Maybe I didn't mean to put game 4. I'm not sure. Heat Bucks.
I
Heat
was gonna
and
say, you
Bucks
have to
game
put
5 and 6.
4 and 5.
4 and 5. I'm sorry. 4 and 5.
You have to put him there. The end
Yeah.
of regulation of game 5 where Jimmy got the inbound put back.
Yes.
Just
Giannis throwing it out.
Jimmy telling Drew Holiday, "I own you" when they're down 6 with 2 minutes left, and then destroying them. Like,
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
Drew
that was-
Holiday. About like
that was
that's-
nuts.
Nobody does that to Drew Holiday.
Nobody.
I had Sixers Celtics game 6 as well. And then I had NBA Finals game 5.
Yeah. I'm glad you put NBA Finals game 5 on the list just because that's what an NBA Finals game is. First
Yeah.
team to 95. Everybody drop your gloves like it's hockey and just to have a fist fight.
Yeah.
It's the fucking best, man. I love the finals.
Forget it was game 3 or 4, but Phoenix and Denver. There was
Definitely.
like
And-
the fourth quarter there where Jokic, Booker, and Durant were just all losing their minds.
I think
I forgot what
because-
game though.
I think it's game 4 where Booker and Durant both have 36 and Jokic has a 53-point triple-double.
Yep.
That was the Matt Ishbia game, was it not? Or
I don't even know.
That might
I
have
think
been
that game
game
3.
could
I
have
think
even been the
3
one
was the
before,
HBA
right?
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm
that
gonna go back and watch those highlights as soon as we hang up, man. Oh my god.
But that sequence of just those 3 guys just playing at a whole different level was fun for sure. It was a fun
Yeah,
season.
just solving basketball.
Yeah, like double teams, just rising up, hitting jump shots. Jokic just doing one-handed floaters from the 3. Yeah,
I mean,
fun season.
salute to the NBA, to all the great players, especially to Nikola Jokic, and salute to Jeremiah McConan and Gabriel Richi, man. A fantastic season 5 of the Richi and Meko Connection. On behalf
you.
of all of us fans who listen along, I am very proud of you guys for continuing to do this. You had me on. This is episode 92.
92.
I believe
So we missed
so.
we missed my birth year. I'm a 1993 guy, January
Oh.
93. But I hope to come back on and talk about basketball and various things. If
Yes.
One Piece ever ends, I want to clear out for Gabe to talk about it.
To clear out for 3 hours for that one.
If there's more shenanigans with Zion and various adult film stars, I can come on here and give a dissertation.
There you
We
go.
can but truly talking about occasionally American football, which is amazing as a product, but really basketball. That is the love that the 3 of us have for basketball is why I love coming on this podcast. The beautiful game. People call soccer the
It's a
beautiful
beautiful
game. And at its best, basketball is elevated to the beautiful game. Nikola Jokic does that almost every time he steps on a basketball court. And the Miami Heat are the beautiful ugly game. And for them to and for them
Cockroaches.
to right, the goddamn fucking zombies, those fuckers. I hope Jokic, they don't seem done. He doesn't seem done.
No.
I think there's so much greatness left in that body.
Well,
That can't jump
I
over a
hate to
phone
cut you off, but we have to do this because this is season finale. Where does he stand on your all-time list, guys, after this NBA Finals? Because after last year, I put Steph at 11, and I think this year I put Steph at 10. I bit the bullet and put him at 10. Where is Jokic at this point in time? And then we can wrap it up.
I didn't even know you had Steph at. Wait a minute, I have Steph at 10 too. That's crazy. I was gonna say I didn't know you had it, Gabe, and I just opened my list and I also had him at 10. Wow, I put him over Hakeem.
Jokic is probably, again, there has to be an element of longevity here because several of the guys who we would name are, but Jokic is trajectory wise is gonna pass KG if he hasn't already. He's going to pass Dr. J. He's probably going to pass Shaq,
Dirk.
Charles Barkley.
Barkley and Malone, and you know,
Yeah, I think that's where you could say he is at. Like, right? Okay, so I'm looking at my list right now. Before I had him 34th, I was like messing around. I think before the playoffs started, and was like, oh man, Jokic is really good. He has to be at least top 50 now. So I landed at 34 with him. This was obviously before the playoffs. Now, I mean, is he ahead of Giannis all time? Let me ask you guys
I
that.
have Jokic, and this might be childish or just like lazy to do this, but I have Jokic at 21 and I have Giannis at 22. And all I have to tell you is look at the end of that game 5 versus Miami. Giannis wanted no parts. I know he was injured.
he was
And
injured.
then look at the way Jokic handled business.
Yeah,
Next year,
honestly,
Giannis could throw
yeah.
the hammer down again, and we could be coming back here and saying Giannis is the belt. But as of right now, I have Jokic in front of him as the all-time player.
Yeah. I think with Jokic,
we gotta
yeah.
have them meet in the finals, man.
Oh,
Gotta have that. We have to have. I have.
Probably would have happened this year, honestly.
I have to watch Giannis try to guard Jokic 1-on-1 and not help. Because
Oh
if
my
any
God.
man on the planet has a chance with Jokic, I think it is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Truly, more than AD,
Yeah.
more than Bam, more than any guy. I think Giannis completely locked in berserk, Rock Lee Giannis.
Yeah, because he's like
has
stronger
everything.
than those other guys.
What about Grant Williams?
Don't sleep.
Batman versus the Joker. That's what I wanted in the finals this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're damn near 2 hours here. You got I am
We're
spent,
wrapping it up.
but
We're
I'm happy.
Yeah, that's all I got.
appreciate you
Pod
guys
went so long.
much,
We're in
man.
season 6 now.
Yeah.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome. This was one of the best pod. I really enjoyed doing this pod. What a way to finish season 5. Jeremiah, it's always so much fun talking hoops with you and everything else. Next time you hear us, we'll probably be talking a little bit about the pigskin.
Yeah, a little Tyquan Thornton, and you know,
Everybody
Jack
start
Jones.
checking.
Jack Jones.
Start checking your fantasy top 200s.
Oh yeah.
Get ready for realizing that dudes are on different teams now. Like, what?
Dude.
Rashad Penny's not on the Seahawks anymore? What?
That
Like,
I love how
that's-
I love how that's just a ritual every year for football fans,
It's
where
one
it's
of
like
my
it's
favorites,
August and it's like, oh wait, what, the Cardinals have him now? And
we're gonna do a bit on our football
Odell's
preview
on the
podcast
Ravens
called "How Many Football Stars Aren't Paid as Much as the Pistons are paying Monty Williams."
Oh my God.
Yo, Monty got a bag.
He
Good
got
for
a
him.
bag.
Anyway.
He got a bag.
All
right.
We're just
right.
hoping for the
Thank you, NBA.
Thank
DeAndre
you, AJ.
Hopkins.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you,
Come to
DeAndre
the
Hopkins.
Pats.
Thank you, Monty
Yep.
Williams. All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you in season 6.